G'day guys, how's it going? Today we're here with this, the Renault Arkana, and everyone, just give me a round of applause real quick. Welcome back to the channel, Renault. It's been a hot minute. It's been about 4 years since we last had Renault on the channel, and that was when Matt reviewed the Megane RS, which is a high-performance hatch. This is definitely not a high-performance hatch. Some call it an SUV, some call it a coupe, some call it small size, some call it mid-size. It kind of sits in the middle of those segments. Essentially, Renault are calling it a small coupe SUV. Either way, it is a very unique looking car with a pretty unique value proposition and a pretty unique design. So today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Esprit Alpine edition, which tops the range at just about $45,000 before on-road costs. So what do you get for that money? Well, today we're going to take a look at the exterior changes, all of the extra features on this very unique Esprit Alpine edition, as well as all of the interior changes, how's this thing drive, and of course we'll be launching it, testing its 0 to 100 kilometers an hour with our specialist timing gear, and I'll end on my final thoughts. Should you buy the Renault Arkana Esprit Alpine? Let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so like I said, the Esprit Alpine comes in at $45,000 before on-road costs. If that's too much, you can get into the Techno spec, which comes in at $41,000 before on-road costs. And you do lose a couple of design cues on the exterior and nice features on the interior. And Renault say that they will be adding another model at a later date, which will be the base model, and that will come in at below $40,000 before on-road costs. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the front of the Esprit Alpine version. And the first thing you'll notice is this all-new Renault logo at the front. I think it looks really nicely integrated with this front grille. And you can actually see that the Renault Diamond logo has been integrated into that grille. It's a very cool pattern actually. Down here you'll also find your radar. This thing does come fully equipped with all of the driver assistance systems that you need to get a 5-star ANCAP safety rating. But if you want a full breakdown of all of the safety equipment that comes with this car, head to carsauce.com. We have a full written review out now about this thing. Moving on to the rest of the front of this car though, you'll see these nice LED headlights here. Thankfully there are LED turning signals at the front. The same cannot be said of the rear, but I'll get back to that. Moving on to the rest of the front, you actually do get some functional aero. So you get this sporty looking splitter here, and you have these slots on the side here that funnel air along the sides of the wheels, helping to cool the brakes and improve the efficiency of the car. So that's pretty much it for the front. Let's check out the side. Alrighty guys, so coming to the side of the Arkana, and since this is the Esprit Alpine edition, you will see the Alpine logo sitting right there. Now Renault, I believe, are phasing out all of their RS models and replacing them with Alpine. So you'll probably see a few more Renault Alpine products coming this way. From the side is also where you can see just how coopy and swoopy this car is. And an interesting thing is you can actually add a ducktail spoiler at the back, which really makes it look very sporty, for an extra $300. So that's a cool option if you'd like it. One really nice inclusion on this trim, these beautiful 19-inch alloy wheels. They have a really sporty pattern to them, quite aggressive, and they do spell out Alpine right there. Now these are 19-inch wheels and they are wrapped in Hankook tires. Definitely not the best tires, but also not the worst, so no complaints from me there. New for this version of the Arkana as well is a 360 camera. That's very good to see. You also get keyless entry and go with potentially one of the weirdest keys I've ever seen on any car. It's just really massive. You also get some very tinted privacy glass at the back there, and here you can see the coupe design of the rear end. I think it looks very sporty, actually quite unique. You don't really see many cars like that. And apart from that, you just get some black plastic cladding down here, but nothing really to write home about. Let's check out the rear end. Alrighty guys, so coming to the back, and here's where you're going to find the new taillight signature for the Arkana. It actually is very reminiscent of a Volkswagen T-Cross in the way that the LED lights meet in the middle, giving kind of a light bar appearance. And you can see the new Renault logo there with Arkana spelt out below in all black lettering, very sporty. Here you get some pretty useless little black plastic cladding, and down the bottom you get a bumper with some fake black exhaust tips. The turning signals and the brake lights are both halogen. Need I say more? Renault, why are you putting halogen turn signals and brake lights on your top of the range Arkana? But at least they're not at the front, so I can forgive you for that. Alrighty guys, let's see how much it can fit in its bum. So 3, 2, 1, no powered tailgate. Oh, let me just move my stuff.
A few moments later.
So the boot space inside the Arkana is actually very impressive. It's almost segment leading. So you do get 485 liters of usable boot space, and you have this false floor under here that you can lift up and you can drop it down a layer. And beneath that, you'll actually find a space saver spare tire. So that's good to see. You also get some additional storage areas on the side. And if that's not enough space for you, you can fold the second row seats flat and get just an enormous amount of space. So in terms of practicality, this definitely ticks the boxes. Let's check out the interior. Alrighty guys, so coming into the new Arkana, and the first thing you'll notice is this beautiful updated leather steering wheel. If there's one thing Renault does very well, it's steering wheels, and this one is no exception. You'll also find this red, white, and blue tri-color stitching, and that actually stands for the Alpine version. You'll find it pretty much everywhere throughout the interior, so I'll point it out as we go along. Next thing you'll notice are these beautiful suede style material and leatherette seats. There's no real leather on these seats, but it feels pretty much real. Like I would be fooled by it, and I was fooled by it, and they're super comfortable, super supportive. You do get electric adjustment and heating on this trim level, so that's good to see. In terms of tech, it's a pretty good story. You get a 10.25-inch driver display up ahead. It's customizable enough. It does change slightly when you change the drive modes, and you can go through a couple of different menus and look at a few different pieces of information. However, I do feel like it's tilted upwards a little bit too much. Maybe my sitting position is just too low, but it does seem to be angled up slightly, so that's a little disconcerting. And one thing I have to note is that when you change the drive mode, the speedo actually disappears for a second, but that's maybe something for Renault to fix. Another cool piece of tech you get is this really interesting portrait display. It's 9.3 inches, a very unique size, and it's got a few pieces of information. It's responsive enough. I wouldn't say it's the best infotainment screen I've used, but you do get a bit of customizability and you can add your own widgets. And the most important thing is you do get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you're pretty much going to be using that 95% of the time anyway. One thing I really like are these climate controls. They feel very nice and smooth and give like a nice tactile feedback when you use them. They're not clicky, but they're kind of soft. It feels very unique. I haven't felt anything like it before. I just wish I could use them more, you know? But I feel like you just kind of set it and forget it with the climate controls. Above that, you'll find a couple of different buttons for your heated seats. There's two different levels. You also have your parking assist button. That's a cool safety feature. And you have your drive mode button. The Arkana comes with three different drive modes. One is My Sense, then you have Sport, and you have Eco. But you can customize each of those drive modes, and I'll get into it a bit more when we're driving, but I did find that the perfect balance was Sport drivetrain response and regular steering response. That seemed to be the sweet zone for me, but everyone's going to be different. You have this pretty traditional shifter here with the blue stitching there for the Alpine. You get a bit of storage room here, as well as your wireless charger and two USB-A ports, an auxiliary port, haven't seen that in a few years, and a 12-volt socky wocky. A little strange, to be honest, to see USB-A ports, but I'm not complaining too much. At least you get them. Storage is pretty decent. You do get adequately sized door bins, and you get a couple of cup holders that are a good size, and a decent center console that is quite deep but not very wide, so you can't really fit larger items in there. You also get one of the weirdest glove boxes where you have to reach like your entire body across the car to get access to what's stored in there, which is a little bit of a strange design decision. In terms of quality of materials, I'd say it's a pretty mixed story. So on the one hand, the seats are really nice, and this door panel is super nice with this stitching as well. The steering wheel feels super nice, and you get soft touch materials all the way along the dash. However, one thing I haven't really been much of a fan of is this plastic material along here. It's supposed to give it a more premium look, but in my opinion, it just kind of cheapens the whole interior of the car. Unfortunately, you get that same material all the way across the dash next to your start stop button, as well as on the door panel, so that's a bit of a shame. One thing you also get that is all new for this Esprit Alpine is a Bose premium sound system. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best sound system I've heard. It's pretty decent. One nice feature of the Arkana is you do get this manual blind and a sunroof that does open quite wide. So that's pretty much it for the front seat. Let's have a look at the story in the back seats. Alrighty, so we're in the back seats now, and I have to say that quality does take a minor hit, but that is pretty standard for this segment, I have to say. One thing I do like to see is the inclusion of air vents at the back here. Sometimes you see that omitted in smaller SUVs, but that's really good to see. You also get a couple more USB-A ports in the back here. No 12-volt socket, although there does look like there was once one. And if I come here, I can fold down this center armrest. You get a couple of cup holders there, and it's actually a pretty decent leather feeling unit. I have to say the seats back here are actually pretty comfortable. They have a fair amount of bolstering and quite a bit of support, and it looks even more premium with the blue stitching there as well. And my seating position is pretty decent. I would probably like a little bit more under thigh support. However, I do get a decent amount of legroom, ample toe room, and a decent amount of headroom considering the shape of this SUV. So yeah, you don't get massive amounts of space, but you definitely get enough space that you could fit 4 adults easily and potentially a 5th one. But you know what else you could fit? CarSauce.com/buy. Guys, if you're in the market for a new car and you don't know where to go, just go to CarSauce.com/buy. We have a dealership network of thousands across Australia, and we will literally make them fight against each other other to get you the best price on your next car. It's completely free for you because we charge the dealers a fixed fee, so you know you're always going to be getting the best price. So join our over 100 happy customers that have already received their car by heading to carsauce.com/buy. Alrighty, I think it's time to launch this thing. Alrighty guys, the car is in sport mode. I'm going to brake boost launch it. Let's launch this thing. Fist me. Oh, yeah, a little bit sluggish off the line. Come on, now we're building torque. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Ooh, you know what? That's pretty decent. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 9.57 seconds. That's not bad. Let's drive this thing normally. Alrighty guys, so now we're driving the Arkana Esprit Alpine. So it is technically a small SUV built on the Renault Captur platform. Let's give it some sauce. Gently roll onto it there, and it's actually got a decent amount of power. So the Renault Arkana comes with a 1.3 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine. It pumps out 115 kilowatts of power, 262 Newton meters of torque, and that all goes to the front wheels via a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Now, the previous pre-facelift version of the Arkana received a bit of criticism over that 7-speed dual clutch transmission, and rightly so in my opinion, because it did feel a little bit sluggish. And this being the exact same powertrain and the exact same transmission, it pretty much still feels a bit sluggish. So if I'm going low speed and I put my foot down, it just takes a second to get going, and I don't know, around town that can be a little bit annoying in stop-start traffic, and when you want to go out onto the back streets like this and have a bit of fun, it can kind of just get in the way of that a little bit. Apart from that, this car actually handles remarkably well. It is sitting on 19-inch alloy wheels, which are not the best in terms of comfort. If I come over here and I press the My Sense button and then go across to sport mode, I can actually edit my mode and set the steering to regular and the powertrain response to sport. And that does help alleviate some of the sluggishness of the transmission. Kind of makes the car a bit more willing to go forward. And I have to say, it's actually quite a dynamic experience. The steering feels really good in regular mode. I don't know what it was about the sport mode steering. It just felt a little bit disconnected to me, but this feels a lot better. And so I definitely recommend, if you are gonna take the Arkana for a test drive, definitely play around with the driving profile settings just to find what works for you, because this works a lot better for me. So what's new with this facelifted version of the Arkana? In terms of driving, not a hell of a lot, to be honest. You are sitting on new 19-inch wheels, which are larger than the pre-facelifted 18-inch alloys. So you might be taking a slight hit in terms of comfort and in terms of road noise. And I will say that you do get a little bit of tire noise through there, especially on those coarse chip surfaces like out here as I take this pretty awesome windy corner. This is a pretty great road. Near Orange, New South Wales. God, I swear there's good roads everywhere in Australia. So yeah, I don't want to be too negative on the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. I think it's already received plenty of flack. And I think for the most part, it does help this car accomplish what this car is designed for, which is to be an efficient, practical SUV. And in terms of that, it definitely gets the job done. So, I mean, right now I'm sitting at 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers, but seeing in the low 6s on the highway is definitely pretty impressive, and really lives up to the frugal name of this SUV. Another selling point of the SUV for me is the fact that it does run on 91 octane unleaded, which is, you know, as fuel prices are going up, becoming a pretty important factor. So the fact that it achieves that fuel efficiency on what is essentially an inferior unleaded petrol is pretty impressive. And one thing that Renault was saying that they pride themselves on was their non-intrusive driver assistance systems, and I can definitely vouch for that. In fact, without turning on cruise control, you would hardly know that this car even had it. But it does come with a full suite of safety features, and if you want to read more about that, head to carsauce.com. We have a full in-depth review that will break down all of the included tech. Needless to say, it's quite a bit. But yeah, I have to say, I'm enjoying driving the Arkana, despite some of the weird things with the transmission and the drivetrain. It feels pretty refined, it feels pretty comfortable. This is, however, a pretty competitive segment, being the small SUV / mid SUV segment. So Renault really have their work cut out for them when it comes to making the Arkana compete with things like the Volkswagen T-Roc, the T-Cross, the Skoda Kamiq, the Toyota Corolla Cross, which are also frugal and practical. And that's why I think Renault kind of doubled down on the sporty stylishness of this Arkana Esprit Alpine edition, because this is really a unique looking car, and that is its unique selling point. So let's get into my final thoughts on the Renault Arkana Esprit Alpine, especially at this launch. Look, it definitely hasn't blown me away in terms of its performance and ride characteristics. However, it has definitely impressed me me with its efficiency, and the quality of the interior is quite nice, as well as the handling dynamics. I feel like handling is where this thing really comes alive, and you can have quite a bit of fun with it on the back roads. But like I said, it is just such a competitive segment, and so Renault really have to stand out, and the way they've done that is by producing a very uniquely designed car. Do I think you need to go for the top of the range Esprit Alpine? Maybe. I think if you're going for a Renault, you want something that's going to stand out a little bit, and you want those extra nice features on the interior. But we'll have to see when the new base model comes out later this year, how that compares and what the inclusions are like on that car. But let me know what you guys think of the Renault Arkana down below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you love the looks of it? What would hold you back from buying a Renault Arkana if you were in the market for a small SUV? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you guys are in the market for a new car, head to carsauce.com/buy. Our massive dealership network will help you out with your next car. All right, guys, ciao for now.